Welcome back to the channel of Truth, Trust, and Transparency. Today, I'm answering a very interesting question I received in my Instagram DMs from quite a young person that's looking to get into property investing. And I thought the question was worthy to compile into a short and succinct YouTube video. And the main reason for that is because I think I'll be able to send and share it with a lot of other people that have a similar question. And I think you guys will be able to get value from it. Now, before I begin, it's important to note that definitely for this type of video, you guys need to know that I'm making this video based on my thoughts, feelings, emotions, education. This should not be taken as financial advice. Consider this and definitely speak to your team, your professional team around you. Now, I'm going to read out the question for you guys, and then I'm going to sort of talk a bit about the answer. And this particular person said, "Hey Davey, should I use the first home buyer scheme to invest in my first investment property or to buy my own owner-occupier home to live in? I'm not sure when I will move out of home, but I would have hoped to already have an investment property or two under my belt in that time. But in regards to the first home buyer scheme, should I use it to purchase my first investment property or my owner-occupier home?" Now, I think first and foremost, I think what you need to understand in anyone that is thinking of using these schemes is that they're exactly what they say they are. The first home buyer scheme is a scheme created by the government to help people that just want to get in and purchase a PPR and live their life. That's what they're designed for, to decrease the deposit, to decrease the LMI, to help people get in and just get their first foot in the door for their PPR. If you are looking to take that second route, that red pill instead of the blue pill, and you want to go down the investing route, you need to understand that this is not a scheme that is designed for first home investors or first time investor scheme. That's not what it's about. And so I think a lot of people use this and get it crossed up along with first home buyer to first investor. They go, "Oh, I'm going to use it to get into the market and get a leg up." Now, I get the thinking, but my problem with something like this is quite simple. The chances of you using this scheme to be a first home buyer, to then buy in that wherever you're living, to buy in that particular area as your PPR, right? You need to live around family, or you're likely going to be buying, near where you live now, where your family is now. It might be unit, apartment, blah, blah, blah. That particular suburban area being the best place for you to invest at that time that you purchase for that purchase amount is going to be, in my opinion, extremely low. What do I mean by that? Any rent investor, any investor knows is that if I've got a budget of $750,000, I want to look across Australia's 15,000 suburbs to find the best suburb for that money at that time to suit whatever it is, a long-term hold or anything like that. The chances of you living in that suburb now or being within a 2-minute drive of your mum's place is extremely, extremely low. So what people do instead is they get into they'll get into that asset, and you might say, "Well, look, Dave, they're getting into the asset and then, they can sell it in a few times." I think by the time you run the numbers, let's just say if it's an apartment, by the time you run the numbers on the costs to get into these, now the government lets you get in for a lower deposit, which means you have a higher principal amount, which means your repayments are higher. You might get a subsidy on LMI, you might get a subsidy on stamp duty, there is still going to be some sunken costs in that property purchase that you can't get back. There's going to be hold costs, and then there's going to be sell costs. And I think when you run the numbers on something like that and you say, "Oh yeah, I can sell it in 2 years," by the time you work out how much money you get back after that, compared to, hey, if I just would have saved up for another 6 months and then bought and had a 1.5 year growth in a proper location, investment location, you'll be, in my opinion, extremely better off with the second option. The next thing that I think you guys, and what I would comment on this is, should I use it to buy my first PPR? The first mistake that people do with PPR, my friends included, is they think that their first property is going to be their absolute best property. So what do they end up going and doing? They go and over leverage. They borrow money from everyone. They use one of these government policies to get in, and they're sitting on $1 million, $2 million worth of debt. They've put a 5% deposit down, and their repayments are absolutely crippling. They're holding on now. A lot of people done it when interest rates were at 2%. Now they're at 6%, coming down a little bit, but people are still bleeding through their cash through their eyes because they've tried to make their first property purchase their best. My opinion for that, if you just want to buy a PPR, if you just want somewhere to live for you and your partner, live happily ever after, buy below your means, buy something pre-existing, get a large block, get something that maybe you can do a little bit of work to, because that way you get a bigger block of land. You usually get a bigger house. You get a better location because it's located closer to and within a better proximity to amenities compared to a lot of these new housing estates. You saw on deal reviews this week, there was one that had a block size of 180 square meters. Your neighbors, you open your window on the side of the house and put your arm out and you can touch your neighbor's house. That's how close they are. So for me, if you're using these schemes, you're using it because you just want to buy your first house and that's where you want to live. Maybe in 5 years' time, you'll upgrade and you'll go again. But if you just want to do that play, go and use them. If you want to be a property investor, like most of you guys I know are and watching my channel are, then I'll be honest, I don't think these sorts of schemes are for you. They're not designed for you, and a lot of people try to use them. It doesn't work out. Even if you got in this new government scheme, the 5% deposit scheme that's coming in 1st of October, even if you use that to get into the market, one, you then have that issue around that location. But two, what are you going to do if the best location is in another state? You're going to move entire states for a full year, 12 months? You're going to uproot absolutely everything, your support network, to save how much money on LMI? To save how much money on a deposit that maybe you could borrow from your parents, maybe you could borrow from a sibling, I don't think people consider that. And then what you also need to think as well is, if you want to sell that in a few years' time, that PPR, sell and move out of it, the government is still a guarantor on that property. So if you have not released them of guarantor, they may come asking for that LMI. No one's talking about that at the moment. Think about it. The government is guaranteeing part of that. If you then sell it and you haven't released them from being the guarantor, they might come after and ask for that LMI. So to me, the way to go about this instead, the smart way to do this, it's a great opportunity, but it's a great opportunity for first home buyers. For me, as an investor, and as you guys that are guys and girls that are young or looking to get started in investment, if you buy that PPR first, as I always say, it's great if you just want to start the family or go down that route. But just remember, you're going to get yourself into $6, $7, $8, $1 million plus worth of debt with absolutely no rent coming in. So if that's $1 million and you've got a 5.7% interest rate, that's costing you $57,000 a year out of your post-tax pocket to hold that property. Now, what you got to understand is, if you're young and you're looking to make the most of this scheme, first home buyer, you're likely going to be at the start of your career. You're likely going to be a couple years into, maybe you're fresh out of uni, or you're a couple years in, you're 5 years into your career. Sorry to tell you as well that your salary is also going to be likely the lowest it will ever be in your entire life. Think about it. When you first come out of uni, or you're a couple years out, you're on those grad salaries, you're on those post-grad salaries, a couple years of experience. It might be 50, 60, 80, 100K. It's not going to be much. 100K, you pay $22,000 in tax, leaving you with $78,000. If I just said that you had $52,000 towards your mortgage, you, my friend, are in mortgage stress. Even if there is two of you, post-tax, you have, say, 140 grand, $52,000 of that is over 30% of your salary if you're both on 100 grand. So that's why I would say get into the investment, or look to invest first. Because also remember, when we pick the best suburb for our money at the time and we're putting our money to work, then we have leverage. Any investment property, if I leverage into a $700,000 property, investment property, that grows at 10% in 1 year. I've made $70,000 in equity. there is a good chance if you're on those salaries that I just told you, or similar roughly, for you to be able to save $70,000 is going to take you a hell of a lot of time and effort. Let's just say ballpark figure, you're 80 grand post-tax, and you can save $30,000 of that. That's $24,000 a year. So to save up that 70 grand in cash, you'd need 3 years. That's why I think you can leverage into investment properties, right? To put your money to work in a more expensive asset. Then if the play is to go down the PPO in a few years' time, maybe you get 1, 2, 3 properties. But like I've done on the whiteboard behind me across many videos, is you are better off investing that money into property, leveraging that. Then you can sell down one, you can take out equity. And as your income grows, as your properties grow, you then have more options. But I think first home buyer schemes, they are great for first home buyers. I think they actually push the market up, but that's another story and that's another video for another day. But guys, they are designed for first home buyers only. They are not designed for first time investors. If you're an investor, save and invest your money towards the best location. Don't try to cross the two. You're not going to be able to get it right. You're going to run into several issues. Then you're going to get into an asset that's half baked, that's not going to grow in value, and you're going to be 2-3 years down the line being like, well, what do I do? Because I'm paying an arm and a leg to live here. It would have been cheaper to rent, and I could have had the deposit saved up to get into an investment by now. That's my thoughts and feelings on it. I'm putting this into a video, so now I can link this to anyone that asks me the question again, because I do get it enough times. But hopefully I've answered that for you guys thoroughly. If you agree, disagree, have any other thoughts, queries, concerns, drop them in the comments. And as always, I'll see you tomorrow.